What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the FF Ballbusters podcast. Today is Tuesday, right? Tuesday, April 18th.
Tuesday it is.
April
Yes,
18th?
sir.
Yeah, man. Wow, I barely knew the date just now. But I do know my name. My name is Will, and joining me is my co-host Eric. How you feeling today, dog?
I'm feeling great this morning, man. Ready to get into another video with you, and really excited that we're now into single digits, 9 days away from the NFL draft.
Yeah, we are danger close to the NFL draft. And with that being said, this video, as you can see by the title, is going to be some of our late round sleepers, some of our late round picks. Now, of course, we don't have ADP on these guys yet because the draft hasn't happened yet. But just based on mock drafts that we've seen, based on the articles, based on evaluations, this is where we think a lot of these guys are going to end up landing. And that's that third and fourth round of rookie drafts. And we're going to get into some of our favorite guys that are going in that range. So just to kick things off, I'm going to let Eric start off with the first one from his list, then I'm going to go with the next one, and we'll just alternate like that. So let's go ahead and get it started.
Yes, sir. I do want to say 2023, this draft class, super deep. So I think that these third and fourth round picks that we're going to be talking about today are probably more valuable than they have been in recent years. So pretty exciting, I think, in what would typically be kind of a mundane area of the draft. But my first one here is Evan Hull, running back out of Northwestern. In my opinion, he's one of the best, if not the best, receiving backs in this entire class. I think he deserves to be talked about like alongside guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and Deuce Vaughn in terms of his receiving ability. His receptions per game is third only behind those two guys in all of college football. His best single season target share is second only behind Deuce Vaughn, and he was the only running back in the country to put up a 200-yard receiving game this season. So he's incredibly dynamic in that regard. I think he was pretty efficient behind what was a terrible offensive line and a really bad team over there in Northwestern. So I think that was pretty impressive. And then he also came to the combine and showed out more than I even expected him to. Ran a 4.47, which is plenty fast. He had the requisite size that I wasn't sure he was going to have, but 5'10", 209 is plenty for a guy with his type of skill set coming into the NFL.
Nah, I really like that. I think Evan Hull over the last couple of weeks has gained a little bit more buzz, but definitely not as much as he deserves to have. So
Yeah.
he is one of those guys who's going to end up sliding pretty far into drafts. A lot of people might not even know his name still at this point, which means you guys could find a lot of value in this guy, especially if he gets the right landing spot.
For sure.
For my first one up, I've got Cedric Tillman out of Tennessee. He's one of the more forgotten players, I feel like, in this draft from a community perspective at least, but I feel like from the NFL, scout perspective, I think that those guys still know who this guy is fairly well. But, he was pretty underwhelming last year, 37 catches, 437 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Not very impressive at all, but we do have to remember he was dealing with a high ankle sprain for the majority, if not the entirety of last season. And the year prior to that, he was the more dominant out of the two receivers there between him and Jalen Hyatt. That year, he had 64 catches, 1,081 yards, and 12 touchdowns, which is nothing to be ashamed of. I feel like with his frame, he's 6'3", 213 pounds, clocked in at a 4.54 for his 40-yard dash. I think he's just a really good combination of height, weight, strength, speed. And with his big frame and just athleticism, he's really good at making just catches. He has a very wide catch radius. And I just think he's going to end up getting some decent draft capital as well. I could see him being a round 2 guy, possibly a round 3 pick as well. He's going to end up getting the draft capital, and I think if a team slots him in immediately, he could make an impact pretty early.
100%. Yeah, I love that pick there. I think he gets overshadowed just because of his teammate Jalen Hyatt and how he performed last year. And you make a good point about his big frame. This class is full of little dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's going to stand out. And like you said, he probably will get better draft capital because of it.
Yeah.
So I dig that. Before we get into our next sleepers, real quick, I just want to do an ad read for one of our sponsors, Dynasty Owner. If you're interested in a really cool and kind of unique Dynasty experience, I would highly suggest you go over to dynastyowner.com. They have a patent on using real NFL salaries for their Dynasty players, the player pool. So when you're building your roster, you have to take into account their actual contracts in the NFL, which I think is really cool. It makes the NFL draft, it makes free agency moves and all these off-season transactions way more important to your dynasty teams, makes the whole thing more exciting. Will and I are both on the platform, and we've enjoyed our experience so far. So if you want to join us over there, I would highly recommend going to dynastyowner.com and using our promo code BALLBUSTERS for 20% off, which is equivalent to $10 off when you sign up. So again, dynastyowner.com, use our promo code BALLBUSTERS for 20% off at sign up.
Hell yeah. So we're going to go ahead and get into our second set of players, starting off with Eric one more time.
Yeah, I got a little backtrack, but we're going to Dwayne McBride, another running back. This one out of UAB, so another guy that maybe you haven't heard of, but I think he's also gaining some steam as of late. In my opinion, one of the best pure runners in the entire class. He's got fantastic vision and decisiveness when we're talking about behind the line of scrimmage and his ability to navigate through it. He forced missed tackles at a rate second only to Javonte Williams among running backs of the last decade. So we're talking about a guy who is breaking a lot of tackles. I think he's more elusive than he's given credit for. He kills it in that area. And that skill set allows him to get to the second level. And then once he gets there, he's great at ripping off big gains. His breakaway conversion rate is the highest of any G5 running back to get drafted since 2010. So he's really in the upper echelon of guys that are in that kind of lower competition category. And I think that his numbers compare really favorably even to the guys, that are in the higher competition, which makes sense. He should be performing that well against lesser competition, but I don't think you should take that away from him. I think he's been incredibly efficient, probably the most efficient runner in college football over the past 2 years. He's got prototypical size at 5'10", 220 pounds. The only kind of drawbacks that I've seen for him is that he's basically a total zero in the passing game, which is significant. He's going to be a two-down grinder. But the only other thing I saw was that he fumbled a fair amount, but that's not really like a sticky thing. I think that that's something that can definitely be cleaned up. So I like him a lot in the third and fourth rounds.
Absolutely. Like you said, fumble problems can always be cleaned up in the NFL. You just got to really work on it. And when it comes to him being a total zero as a receiver, that does kind of suck. But in terms of him just being so good at running the ball, it might almost not matter at all. We've seen running backs who, didn't catch the ball too often and still succeed in the league. Obviously, they're in that upper echelon of pure runners, but Dwayne McBride should also be in that upper echelon as well. So, yeah, it's going to depend on where he lands at. A lot of these guys, I'm going to say that a lot, but it depends on where a lot of these guys end up landing at. But
third and fourth round picks in the rookie draft are probably going to be going late in the NFL draft. So, yeah, landing spot determines a ton. Things are definitely going to change and shake up after the NFL draft, but yeah.
So I'm going to do my best to not keep hammering away at that because you guys should know that by now already. Next up for my list, I've got Rakim Jarrett out of the University of Maryland, all alma mater.
Go Terps.
Go Terps. But just taking a look at Rakim, he's one of those guys who was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, was able to declare to the University of Maryland, but had offers from other big schools like Alabama, Ohio State, Tennessee, but chose to stay home at UMD, went to St. John's for high school. However, his college career could be seen as disappointing. He never really reached a 1,000-yard season, never really reached that full 5-star potential that they thought they would get out of him. But that also does kind of remind me of another Maryland wide receiver, Mr. Stephon Diggs. I'm not saying he's Stephon Diggs by any means, but what I do want to say is that Rakim Jarrett, in terms of his athleticism, he has all of the tools in the toolbox that he needs to succeed at the next level. He showed great speed at the combine, running a 4.44. He's really tough, but one thing he does need to work on is sort of polishing his routes, his technique, stuff of that nature. But again, as we said earlier with sort of the fumbles, that is something that can get cleaned up at the next level pretty easily. And in terms of him just having that athleticism to go with that toughness that he has to go along with that, I think that the ceiling could be the sky. And if he was able to work on his technique and get coached up on it, he could make an immediate impact. If he lands at a team that needs wide receivers, he could be someone that could impact immediately.
Yeah, 100%. Physically, I think he has all the tools. Like you said, a little bit of refinement in the route running category could help him go a long way. His usage at Maryland was just weird. They deployed like a 6-man rotation kind of for no reason, even though the other guys weren't nearly as talented. So I'm not sure what the deal was with that, but hopefully he can have a better NFL career than college career.
And I honestly think he will. I think he's going to be one of those guys who succeeds more at the next level than he did at college.
Yeah.
But with that being said, that's going to get us into our next sponsor. Recently, we partnered with the Fantasy Football League Winners website, so we've been making content for them, making some videos. So if you guys check out that link in the description below, you'll be able to find some of the extra content we've been working on, just some of the more stuff that we've been putting out there in the world. We just recently put up a prospect profile on Tyjae Spears, which is going to be pretty interesting. You guys should check that one out. But with that being said, as a part of that partnership, we are also partnered with Underdog Fantasy. So with that, if you guys use our promo code FFLW, they will match your deposit. What that means is if you put in $20, they will match it 100% and put another $20 into your account, all the way up to $100, making it up to $200 you could have in your account just by depositing $100 and using our promo code FFLW. So if you click that link down below, get into Underdog Fantasy, get in some best ball leagues, just have some fun out there, man, and gamble responsibly.
Yes, sir. Thank you to the league winners and thank you to Underdog. Let's keep it going.
Hell yeah.
We'll go to my third guy here on the list, and that's A.T. Perry out of Wake Forest. We've talked about him before on the channel, and I think originally when I talked about him, I called him an arbitrage Quentin Johnston. I've gone back. I've thought about it more. QJ is just way too good after the catch for that comp to really make the most sense. Not that A.T. Perry isn't good after the catch, but he's not even close to QJ's kind of territory in that regard. So I did some more digging, and I think he's actually pretty similar to a guy like George Pickens. Pickens is a little bit better in contested catch situations, and I think Perry is a better, more technical route runner. But overall, really similar metrics and athleticism. AT has a big frame, very similar again to George Pickens at 6'3.5", 198. Really good speed for his size at 4.47. I think he can go up and win 50-50 balls. He also had fantastic production in his final 2 years at Wake Forest with 152 receptions, 2,389 yards, and 26 touchdowns these past 2 years. So Wake Forest, again, not the highest competition level, but with that type of production in this type of athlete and body size, I think that can translate really well.
No, absolutely. A.T. Perry is somebody that you brought to my attention, and I've seen his name pop up more and more as the weeks go along. Yeah. And like you said, I didn't know that he produced this much in college. Just those 2 years is absolutely insane, honestly. So if you guys are able to get somebody like this, they were able to match up to any type of that production at the NFL level, that'd be absolutely insane.
For sure.
Taking a look at my next pick, I've got Mr. Xavier Hutchinson out of Iowa State. Iowa State.
Love this guy.
Yeah. To me, Xavier Hutchinson is sort of the embodiment of sort of a jack of all trades, but not really a master of any of them. But that could change at the next level depending on how teams start to deploy him. So usually he worked in the slot. I wouldn't call him an elite wide receiver, but he does a lot of things well that could lead to success at the next level. He's not the fastest receiver in this draft, clocking in at like a 4.53, but that is enough speed, and he is shifty enough and smart enough to still make defenders miss in the open field. That's one thing he excelled at last year, was making people miss tackles. He has a very wide catch radius and doesn't let the ball touch his body very often. He's sort of a contortionist. He's very good at just body control, twisting, turning his body to make those difficult catches in traffic. At 6'3", 203, he's just got a great frame as well. So you add that to the body contortion, the speed that he has, just the hands that he has as well. It just makes her a really good combination, especially for someone in the slot. And just to top it off last year, he finished off last year with 107 catches for 1,171 yards. So with that being said, if he lands in the right place, like I've done before, and he gets a role in the slot, he could pick defenses apart. And he could prove to be, at the very least, a pretty good flex option in fantasy, going up to maybe a wide receiver too. Like, I could see him having that kind of ceiling.
100%. Yeah, I don't think he's getting talked about enough. I love that you put him on this list. He could definitely be a target hog at the next level. I see him as like a bigger version of like an Amon-Ra.
Yeah.
At least like in terms of style of their game. Maybe he won't be quite as effective, but I don't know. I think with the production that he put up, the size that he has, I think it's definitely possible he can get to that level.
I could definitely see that for sure too.
Yeah. All right. Last sponsor to go over. Especially funny because we're matching today. We're talking about the apparel brand from our boy Zay, Do Numbers. If you're interested in some cool apparel, some merch, hoodies, t-shirts, whatever it is that you're looking for, you can go find it in the link in the description. It's at snacks.online. And you can use our promo code FFBallbusters15 for 15% off at checkout. So go check out this awesome merch. We wear it all the time. We love it. Go support us and support our boy Zay and get 15% off using our code FFBallbusters15.
Hell yeah, boys. Why lie? Numbers don't. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. All right. The last guy on the list here for me is going to be Parker Washington, wide receiver out of Penn State. Not the biggest guy. He's 5'10", but he's well built out, fills his frame up at 208 pounds. He's got arrogant hands, bro. Like, disrespectful hands. Okay. Especially for a guy his size. He plucks the ball with ease. He's got just a really impressive catch radius, again, for a guy that's only 5'10". If you watch his tape, it's full of highlight reel grabs. Like you talked about with Xavier Hutchinson, kind of that kind of contortionist, acrobatic grabs, diving catches, all this sort of stuff. Very similar in that regard. Displays really, really good body control and contested catch ability. He's also one of the best yak receivers in this entire class. His broken tackle percentage is the highest in the entire class, and his yak per reception is 5th among all receivers of this class. So again, just another guy that I don't think is getting the respect that he deserves, doesn't get the hype that I think he deserves. And not to overdo it, but my kind of comp for him is like a diet Debo.
Okay, that's high praise. It's high praise, but
again,
Debo, of course, diet.
Debo is on another level. He's much bigger physically, and obviously he's gone on to have incredible success in the NFL. I don't necessarily project that for Parker Washington, but a guy who's kind of a shrunk down version of him. It's a very similar skill set and style of play, and I think that he could have success even if not to the same level.
No, I like that. I think, yeah, you could very much be some truth to that. Especially, I like the fact that he's 208 pounds as well. It means he's going to be a very sturdy 5'10" receiver.
For sure.
And then to finish things up on my side of things, I got Mr. Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. And he's one of the more intriguing late round picks, definitely. He's somebody whose name has started to get more and more traction as the weeks have gone along. And at 5'10", 191 pounds, he's a pretty good size. And I think he would work very, very well for a slot role in the league. But that's the thing with this guy. He's actually very versatile. So he's able to play on the inside and on the outside. He showed that in college as well. He's very active throughout running his routes, and to me, he's one of the best route runners in this class. Like, he's up there in that upper echelon. He's able to make a lot of different moves, uses head fakes, hip dips, all sorts of stuff to be able to create separation. And he's not the fastest receiver in this class, but he still has a very good way of setting up defenders to make them miss tackles. So he's very good in the open field. And I just think he's a really good versatile weapon that an NFL offense could have a lot of fun just finding different ways to draw up and get the ball in his hands, because he is electric when he does have the ball in his hands. Personally, I think he's going to get more of a slot role in the NFL with the ability to line up outside if they need him to. But I think it's just really going to come down to draft capital with this guy, where he gets drafted and how much he's going to get used. But I just really think he does have a bright future ahead of him if he does get that draft capital.
Yeah, 100% agree. I like Jaden Reed a lot. I think he really shined at the Senior Bowl. It would have been cool to see him come out the year prior, actually, because I think he would have gotten probably similar draft capital, even in a more stacked receiver class. But yeah, like Jaden a lot.
Hell yeah.
And lastly, not a guy that's necessarily on either of our lists, but I just wanted to bring him up and kind of talk about the elephant in the room here, Kayshon Boutte. Lots of things swirling around him with his performance at the Combine being as terrible as it was. People remembering his freshman season where he broke out at 18 years old, had a 300-yard receiving game against Ole Miss. Just the kind of potential that we know that he could have versus what we've seen him produce since then, because ever since his freshman year, things have gone downhill. What's your take on him now, and where does he kind of stack up amongst the guys that we've already talked about today?
My take on him right now, especially since the NFL draft, has been staggeringly disappointed in Kayshon Boutte as a prospect, but also, like you said, also somewhat hopeful, because when he slides into this range of these 3rd and 4th round picks, it's like you talked about earlier, where we're just kind of taking a chance on these guys to see if they end up being anything in the first place, you know? Like, we're not having super high hopes, and we know for a fact that not all of these guys are going to end up panning out. It's just a fact. But when it comes to Keyshawn Butte, like you said, he leaves that little bit of space where it's like, all right, if he can kind of get back to what he used to be, you know, the sky's the limit. But it's just a matter of if he's going to be able to do that or not. And if I'm using a 4th round, 3rd round pick in a rookie draft to get this guy just to see, I'm not too mad at that, to be honest with you. So, yeah, if people are drafting him up in that same range with guys like, obviously, I don't think they're doing that anymore. I think that ship has already sailed.
Yeah, no, I think like late second, I feel like is the earliest he's going to go at this point. It depends a ton on draft capital, which we've said a bunch about all of these guys, but him especially, his range of outcomes is so wide. Like I genuinely think before we saw his combine performance that his ceiling was the highest of any receiver in this class.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's not even, no disrespect to JSN. We've had such high praise for JSN. We love what he can do, but just athletically, he's not, well, after the combine performance, I guess it's hard to say this, but what we had thought prior to the combine, Keyshawn athletically was better than JSN, and he had shown production his freshman year early on that was to a similar kind of tier as JSN. But then, we got the 29-inch vert. We got the super slow 40. He went to the pro day and was like, nah, my 40's fast enough. I'm not going to run that again. I'm not going to do these drills and try to improve on it. His agent needs to be fired. That's for sure. I don't know what he's doing out there. But yeah, I think just because there is that glimmer of hope still, there's a little bit of potential. If he gets drafted, if he doesn't go undrafted, I think it's worth kind of a mid to late 3rd round pick.
And I will say him going undrafted is a possibility, guys. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibilities whatsoever. It's right there.
Crazy to think about, like even 2 months ago, 3 months ago, but now, very possible.
Very possible. But with that being said, that's going to wrap up our list of our, late round steals, late round additions, however it is you want to look at this video. But these are the guys we like that are going in that 3rd, 4th round range of rookie drafts. And if you guys agree or disagree, let us know in the comments down below. Honestly, start a conversation because we're getting close. We got 9 days. We're in the single digits this NFL draft. So things are definitely going to get spicy. A lot of these takes are going to change, especially after that 9 days. So I am excited to see how this goes. Eric, you got anything else for the people before we roll out of here?
Join our Discord again. Obviously, hit us up in the comments here. We'll respond to you. But if you hit up our Discord, not only will we respond to you, but we got a lot of other fans and really smart Dynasty people in there that can help you out as well. So go join that. Link is in the description below. All that good YouTube stuff. If you want to like the video, if you like the content, subscribe. If you want to see what we got going on in the future. But yeah, I think that's all I got.
Yeah, so with that being said, if you guys made it this far, first check out those links in the description below. But also wanted to say, we love you guys for watching these videos, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.